Welcome to the Feral Minds Podcast. You are right where you need to be, and we are glad you're here. Come seek with us as we laugh at what we have known and find direction from what our curiosities demand we learn.
So, as we're talking about the dive into the mania that was my fandom, I got to meet someone else who was a little bit more, even than what I had aspired to.
Okay, somebody to look up to.
Yeah, well, I don't know about look up to, but
somebody to look at.
Yeah, well, and that's what I mean. Come on,
that's the heart of being a super fan is just get somebody to look at me.
There's a whole lot of that. Hey, look at me. Hey, look at me. The guy, and I think we've all seen this fella. If you watched almost any Thunder games around here, he's a big guy. He's got a big stature to him. He wears these suspenders. He carries
I don't know,
around
but I feel
like a big bullhorn. Have you not seen him? He's been even on some car commercials.
There's one at every arena in every major sports town. Is there not? If not a couple?
You know, yeah, a couple.
Yeah,
we've got at least two I can think of.
Keeping track of them.
We got one big fella, and I don't know. You kind of said something earlier that I thought I didn't realize how in tune you were with the unsanctioned mascot world.
Yeah,
but you'd said a pretty good thing. Like, you either got the guy that wears something on his head, you got the guy that paints up. I don't remember what all the ones you said, but it
seems like there's some onesies involved. You usually got the overall guy.
Yeah,
you got the clown hair guy, you got the paint your face guy, you got the shirt off guy.
Yes,
and you can blend all those disciplines together. You can be clown head, no shirt. You can be no shirt with overalls. I've seen all those. I've seen all those dudes that sometimes you look at them and go like, man, just light yourself on fire. Like, if you want us all to look at you, I know the easiest way to do it.
I'm laughing here because, like I said, I went up and I touched that level of fanmanship, and some of it, like I said, wasn't necessarily by choice. I ended up in a situation where I would buy tickets solo, because it was cheaper that way. It was just easier for me to get in the games, and I don't mind going on my own. I've kind of mentioned this before. Some people just live a little bit lonelier existence. But in doing so, when you go solo, you'll find yourself sitting next to other people who are doing the same thing. And so I roll up with this tickets I'd gotten from one of the scalpers I used to go to, and I sit down, and I'm right next to one of the most famous super fans we got, the big fellow with the suspenders.
And just real quick, are all these super fans, they're all alone? Is that what y'all have in common?
From what I've seen, again, I don't exactly know all of them's existence, but for what little arena, what little bit I dipped my toe in the waters of it, yeah, the fellow that was there, he's by himself too, and he actually had
That's
seat
not coincidental,
two.
Right?
I don't think so.
It's not the fact that nobody wants to share time with you because you're out there acting like a buffoon in front of 30,000 people. That has no hand in the solo disposition.
Oh, well, maybe that might have something to do with it. I love a Seinfeld episode where it shows them and they go pick up Putty and he's all painted up like a super fan.
And you're like, oh, I got to take this guy. It's a form of like drunken sobriety.
You should have warned me before I knew I was coming with you.
It is a bit of I can't take you anywhere.
There was one. So if I did go with someone, I'd try to tone it down. But there was one time I went with a fella, and one of my things I went through for a little bit is I'd bring a turkey call. So that could be additionally annoying.
But people got to sit by you, dude.
Don't bury my punchline. I'll get to that. I know. That's
people that pay
more
good money for these friggin' seats have got to sit by you and listen to this nonsense come out of your mouth. That's the whole. All right, like you cheering for your team, but there's a whole lot of cheering for me.
Yes, there's a whole lot of look at me. See how much I'm cheering for my team. Watch me impact this game in a way the other 18,000 people here aren't doing. There's no doubt there's some of that behind it. But we didn't get there yet. So, at present moment, I am a fan. Maybe in the super realm, maybe not. But I'm still at least a fan who appreciates that there are super fans. I still didn't have any, I didn't want to be a super fan. I don't want to judge them. But it's not entirely for me, but I am glad they still exist.
Yeah.
And so I was sitting down next to one. He had seat 2. I had seat 1. we're right behind the goal, and he looks at me, and I guess you could tell it's kind of a normal thing. He said, hey, if you don't mind, you might switch me places. He goes, and then he starts trying to explain his deal.
To do.
Like, I'm going to run down. And he had no idea that
I'm an intern that nobody invited.
I'm an intern, exactly. And so I look at him, I was like, heck no. I said, I'm going to run down there with you.
What's this guy's setup? What's he looking like?
He's shirtless, and then he's got suspenders.
Okay.
And he's got like this big bullhorn. That like a big, I think it's a bullhorn, that's shaped like a big funnel of a horn.
Gotcha.
And it goes down there whenever the other team is on this end shooting free throws. So it's only half the game that you go down there and try to get obnoxious.
So his shirt's off. Like, is that part of the plot or is that the punchline?
I think that, yes, plot and punchline.
Okay.
Your punchline is there to try to intimidate, distract, annoy the other players, and that was his way of doing it.
Okay.
Now, for me, at this stage in life, I see there's two different kinds of people in the world that take their shirt off in public, and it's either one, somebody who doesn't care at all, or two, somebody who cares so much that they're excited for everybody to see
ready
them.
to show you. Yeah.
And I wasn't either one of these people.
Okay.
So that wasn't my flavor.
Was this guy that you were following?
Yeah. And that's
was he fit or was he a big boy?
No, he's a big fella.
All right. There is some humor there. People love to see a dude out of shape take his shirt off. Bert Kreischer's like built a living off of it, running around with your shirt off. Like, that is a thing.
It is, if it's done with confidence. I love the phrase, nothing looks good on anybody but confidence.
Yeah.
So as long as they're comfortable in their own skin and their own body, you're going to look good no matter what you got on.
Just keep smiling.
Smiling. I'm talking this lesson like I got it all figured out. And I just walk through life
all
with
right,
no
so
concern.
this guy comes along, and this guy's a big impact on your life. You think like, this is a human I should aspire towards.
But it was something fun. But I kind of just, as I'm looking back, like I said, at the time, I didn't even realize how much I was leaning into this fan mania that would have even considered me like him. I thought I was still just a regular fan coming in.
You thought you were normal.
Everybody needs to be dressed out in all blue and ready to cheer and yell in a way that's going to help their team on the floor.
Yeah.
Now, here's where I saw some of myself in the way I would behave, and I can't change it now. I can only learn from it. But you spoke on it a minute earlier. My particular kind of heckle had more to do with the loud, obnoxious comment that would hope to get a player's attention, knock them off their game, get them to engage back and forth.
Yeah.
That was where my forte was.
Can you be a super fan without heckling? Could you be a really up like a Tony Robbins style super fan?
So could possible? You be? What I hear you asking there is, could you be a super fan and nobody see you?
Just positivity.
Could you be a super fan and nobody see you?
No, you can be seen, but you're not going to be negative on the calls. You're not going to be negative on the other team. You're only uplifting in all directions.
Without a doubt.
Do those people exist?
I haven't seen one, though.
All right.
I haven't
That's
seen
not the
Captain
chosen
Positivity mascot yet.
All right.
But I love where your head's at as far as that mania goes. It's
just a bunch of we can do it. Go guys. Yay team. I think they call them cheerleaders, but you would be in the fans.
Hey, the role of the cheerleader
in the stands
is changing, and it can take on many forms.
So when you decide to become a super fan, is that a moment of declaration, or does this slowly happen to you?
All right. Again, I can't say enough. I don't think I ever reached super fandom status. I don't necessarily want to be here saying that I was one.
Okay.
But I just say I touched it. I got close.
Were you telling
I sat next
yourself,
to one like a sidekick for a whole game before. And then, like I said, after reflection, so I spoke on this too, that I think it's going solo that brings it out in you. You don't have that mirror of somebody else.
I think it's chicken and egg. I think it's chicken and egg. It may be the reason why you are solo.
Maybe. Oh,
maybe people, yeah. Maybe everybody's embarrassed to be at the game with you.
It might be. But now, also wanted to touch on this too. For everybody who doesn't like the heckler, like there was one time I was at a game, and after kind of doing a little bit of my normal stuff, a guy just looked at me and he just said, "You're a jerk," and that was it. And I didn't really retaliate back. I just was like,
What did you want though? Like, I mean, you're out there acting the fool.
Well,
like there is going to be an irritation element.
Is that coaxing, like that laugh, that yeah, that's right.
Oh, but you're not doing anything funny.
Oh yeah.
What are you doing? It's funny. You're just screaming.
No, if you're not entertaining, then you need to keep your mouth shut.
Okay,
that's my philosophy as a heckler. So, but I think any heckler
there's a lot of
my heckles are funny. I'm the only one that says good things. Yeah. No, and that's what I'm saying. As I've looked back on it, I realize no matter how great my impact I thought I was going to have, it's not going to match up with what everybody else is there to do. not everybody else is
enjoy
there
the
to hear
game
my
in peace.
loud
Yeah.
insights, especially the ones that are like 3 seats in front of me.
Yeah.
Because when I would yell my thing, I was yelling
What was
so
your
that
thing?
stadium could
What was your
hear
thing?
me.
What would you
It
yell?
kind of depended on what was going on.
Give me a
'cause
go-to. Give me a go-to.
honestly, it depended on what was happening in the moment. One of the things I'd like to do is if a player on their team had just missed something, I would try to encourage him. Like I used to almost do like, oh man, now that was a great shot. You need to put up more
Oh, you kind of twisted up a bit. Yeah.
Like I said, you got to bring a little bit of a decent flavor to
All
it.
right. You were a passive
one of the
aggressive
times, so I had one back and forth with Tony Allen one time. Used to play with the Cowboys. Went to the Grizzlies. A fantastic career. And from what I've heard, a fantastic human being. I don't know much about
This is
guy.
a Hall of Fame moment for a Superfan or a Heckler,
A little
right?
bit.
Like
It's
you
the
actually
story
got
I tell.
engagement. Okay.
It's the story I tell.
And what did he do?
So he'd been having a rough little stretch there. Westbrook been putting it to him pretty good. Took him to the hole. It stopped him on the other end, and they came back and got an and-one on him. It was just a moment like Tony he just had a bad run of basketball.
Yeah.
And then this brings up the time that I found was your best time to yell. Whenever our team's about to shoot free throws, because the crowd will kind of calm down. And just for a second, if you can get it in before the player's trying to shoot, because you don't want to mess our player up.
Yeah.
But if you can get it out before he shoots, but while it's quiet, you can almost guarantee if anybody's, they're going to hear you in there.
Did somebody teach you this, or are you just looking for quiet moments in the game?
No, this is just
where you can scream?
me and my obnoxious ways. As I look back, since I was a child, I've been looking for ways to get attention in the middle of the crowd.
All right.
It just some people do, some people don't.
So let me ask you a few questions about hecklers.
All right, what do
if you don't mind, I'd like to crawl into the psychology of hecklers. One, is it true that they hate themselves?
I don't think so. I'd never heard that. But again, I'm speaking from the experience I have. The goal I had was to make an impact on the game.
Yeah.
If I'm trying to spin it from like a positive standpoint.
Right.
I won't want to forget there's also the negative ego. Hey, look at me. I'm more important than everybody else.
There's a lot of that.
There's that. But the positive side, if I was going to try to make it sound good or try to, in my defense kind of a situation, I was there to try to give my team any advantage that I could.
Okay.
That 12th man theory. I wanted to be that single-handed Texas A&M, just all alone. And then you see some arenas, like they're full of people like Oklahoma City, we're not even up in the higher echelons of people that behave this way.
Just so
you go to Philly,
so screaming.
you might need a psychiatrist to get out of there.
Screaming at strangers from a safe distance, that is not an act of self-hatred.
Not the way I see it.
Okay.
Not the way I engaged in it. Again, I can't say I wasn't coming from some ego place.
And superfans and hecklers, like, we're whistling semantics at each other, right? Same thing? Superfan is a heckler, heckler's a superfan?
No, I think it's squares and rectangles. I think all hecklers have a taste of superfan.
Okay.
But I don't think all superfans have that heckler.
Oh.
Like the fellow that I was running down there with, I don't think that he was going down and saying derogatory or mean things towards the other players to try to get their attention, like you hear other fan bases do, where.
I went to a high school basketball game not too long ago, and I sat next to a heckler. And I had
heckling at a high school
basketball game, right?
Not to say there's an excuse anywhere, but
very
that's
intimate,
a special kind of.
Very intimate.
Right.
He was literally like throwing over the shoulder spit into my popcorn, right? And so I sat there and I'm an observer, like I can get into the human spirit, right? So I just decide this game I'm going to be here with a heckler. And I'm going to try to understand, because to me, it's a tension thing, right? Mm-hmm. Like you can watch somebody go from 0 to your drunken father to 0, all in an arc of 30 seconds. It's amazing. It's almost, it had a little bit of that Tourette's, like twitch.
Trying to get that dopamine hit from the feeling that I'm getting
a release. Mm-hmm. And this guy, man, he ran out of gas too. That's what I noticed. You go into the third quarter, man, and you may not have it in you. Like this guy didn't come for 4 quarters of heckling. He got about 2 out, and dude ran out of gas. So much so that like I would see a bad call, and I'd be like, "What's up, big boy?
Where you at, heckler?"
Dude, I've been sitting through 2 quarters of this. Now I'm accustomed to it, and the dude's falling asleep on the job. Like, and then there were also like so that was a question I had. Do you, as a heckler, do you feel that once you take on that role, is there a burden of performance anxiety to actually get out there and give a good performance?
Yes. And I will tell you how it played out very interestingly at me. I had a guy who used to give me 1 ticket of his. Just because he appreciated my.
Oh, you were entertaining him.
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
Well, I mean,
like
don't get
that.
me wrong. There's
like
also because so I said I'd go try to buy single tickets off people.
So this is paying off now.
Well, and in this case,
Okay.
it kind of did. And he would give me a free ticket. And he would almost imply like, "Oh, ready to hear you tonight. Can't wait to hear what you have to say on the
needed
game."
some of that garbage in my ear.
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah. So, like I said, it's not like everybody hates this, and
Okay.
even I don't. I can appreciate the annoyance of it,
Yeah.
but I still do want to live in a world where there are emphatic fans,
Right.
and that's what this fella kind of gassed my flame a little bit too. So, to answer your question, do I feel like I have an obligation? Yeah. Whenever, in that case, when the guy is kind of like, "Hey, I got that ticket for you, we need you in the building yelling for us," then you start to feel like, all right, I
We
guess
need you
I
here.
can't, yeah.
You're part of the performance.
I'd have to, and so, and the reason I bring this up, it matches on my story because you talk about running out of gas. So yeah, whenever I felt like I had this performance that I had to go do, like I'd show up to the games and I'm taking caffeine pills or trying to get down whatever. I didn't. This phase of my life was when I was really trying to cut out drinking, and I didn't do awesome at that every time. So every once in a while, man, you get me a couple of good IPAs. Like it took me a minute to figure out, but one, I'd probably have a good time. Two, I'm going to get a little out of control. Three, I'm not going to remember it.
Oh, you want to be somewhere between 2 and 3, huh?
Yeah. Like you talk about, always trying to find that
Float
edge.
in the middle there. The other thing I noticed about this guy, he had moments where he would completely turn around. So the ump or the ref that he was riding, if he made a call in his team's favor, in an opposing possession, he would turn around and go like, "All right, man, you see that? I see it. He's getting better. He's getting better. I see it. He's coming up." So all of a sudden, who was this guy that was his foe has now momentarily become his friend, and now he's encouraged by the work. He likes the judgment that he sees on the court, right?
Yes.
But then again, you give that another 5 minutes, and the pressure builds up, and we got another Tretz moment. And, this guy got so carried away. He was on this one ref so hard that at one point in time, he stands up. And we're talking about a guy that's about my age. Stands up, takes his hat off, points down at the ref and goes, "What you gonna do?" And I'm like, dude, he's repping Hulk Hogan lyrics on him now. What you gonna do?
Oh, he starts ripping the shirt.
And I'm just like, man, now this is before the third quarter. Again, third and fourth quarter, and this happened to be a close game. The dude was going 90-night. Like, he was out like a toddler that had gone way too hard in the early moments.
I think his substance wore off. I think that
he needed to pace himself, and he did not.
Yeah, from what I hear, that guy, and again, reflecting it through my own experience, there's something that masks his decency to let him behave that way. And then it obviously kind of came to a crescendo and then wore off. To me, that's just textbook drug use behavior at a public setting.
It's what
I've seen me do it. I think that's
kind of what it felt like to me. Like he was getting that dopamine fix every time he got a release, every time he got a twitch. What? Why you? Huh? Ha? Ha? It was just like this pressure that was boom, boom. And I remember at one point in time, so he's sitting right behind me. At one point in time, I look across to my left. This is after a heckle. And it was a garbage heckle. It wasn't funny.
It doesn't matter.
It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
I look across the aisle, and I make eye contact with an older lady that's sitting in my section. And in that moment, we universally feel the embarrassment. Like, I felt it like, I don't know what it, like, yeah, no, is he with you? He's not with me.
We somehow all accept the behavior.
Yeah, he's here performing for us, I guess. Until he hits those later lung quarters, and he ain't got it. But for the first two quarters, man, he was there with, "You're blind. You guys are idiots." The occasional "let's go." Finally, a good call. Like, he kind of ran through the same chants, and they weren't much of a chance, kind of a random sentence over and over again.
And you also got to think, like, if you really dive into what your heckler's motivation is there, he's one of the worst ones. I don't like when they go after the refs. You see kind of the difference there as opposed to doing to the players.
It's a high school game, though, right? It's a high school game.
Right.
So ripping on high school kids is probably tough.
Yeah, anything you do in that arena is tough. But if you compare that to an NBA one, you see that too. And I just don't feel like you're getting any benefit for your team or any impact on a win by yelling at refs for one call and then cheering them for the next.
Yeah.
Like, there's just no way that makes sense.
Well, I'm not going to look down on it because it was a big part of the entertainment for my evening. Like, it really was.
Yes.
I was plugged with what this guy was saying. At times I was embarrassed. But then you're like, why am I embarrassed, right? Like, I have nothing to do with this guy other than proximity. At times, I kind of cheered him on, right? If he did have a good line. All right, bro, that was good work. I didn't know what to do with it. His wife's sitting right next to him, and his wife is not heckling. And that made me wonder how many heckling spouses are out there being drug around through society going like, all right, we're going to take him to the ball game where he always loses his mind, and I'm going to do my best to sit here and act like it's okay. And I just felt for the heckler's spouse, like, maybe that's a tough spot to be in, man.
Or maybe they're vicariously living through it. Maybe they're like, yeah, what he said. I sure wish I would be, I don't know, brave enough to stand up and yell like a jackass. They might love it. They might be into it, too.
Maybe that's it. Now, I wasn't the feeling I was getting coming off the situation. Like, it felt like she wanted to crawl under the stairs, but I couldn't fully read it because I'm sure some people really like to see their spouse get into that mode in that frenzied moment. And who knows what happens after the game. I remember initially I thought, well, maybe it's a great date. Maybe you take all these emotions and you stir them up, and then what happens? Go turn the lights off, and it really gets interesting. But I'll tell you, by the third quarter, man, the dude had no gas.
No.
He barely even stand up at that point. There was no way he was going to put in work.
Yeah, I think his Adderall wore off, his caffeine wore off. It was a high school game. His liquor, he didn't sneak out and get him another drink. There's something that was behavior enhancing that seems to have worn off.
I don't know.
If you ask me,
maybe
that's what it sounds
these
like.
guys, we've seen them around the games for years, right? And I always thought it was somebody that had a bad experience with the game. I never even thought, when you use the term superfan, I was like, what? Is that what a heckler calls themselves? Like,
that's what
you're
they think.
not a heckler. You're a super fan, right?
Well, yeah, I think basically a super fan is just a heckler with some decent personality and a little bit of makeup and a colored wig.
Yeah. Well, I think that's
and I love living in a world where they're super fans.
Yeah.
I really do. I've gotten as close as I can to participating in my aspect of being one, and I feel like I can now speak on it and enjoy them from a more qualified place. But I don't like anybody who just shows up and spews pointless negativity, especially towards referees. But, again, who am I to judge? You take the good, you take the bad, you take them both, and there you have.
I mean, I think hecklers you're a band of merry men. There's a lot of range. This guy didn't, there was no pizzazz at all. The idea that a super fan is a heckler with a predisposition towards makeup and costume and all that pageantry. This guy didn't have that. But it was entertaining. It was not something that I would want my kid to follow after.
Ooh, yeah.
Which raised the next question, right? And so I noticed behind me, I've got a father-son heckling duo. Yeah. And so the son's, I'm going to say the son's about 10.
Yeah.
And the father's probably in my age group. And the son would do what the father did. But then I noticed the son would start trying to step out.
I was going to say, he probably would.
He was baby birding a little bit, trying to show dad, like, hey, dad, watch me hit this aerial on the way down to pick up this worm. And it was so funny because I would listen to the dad, and the dad, I could tell he wasn't, I don't think he'd fully sold himself on being a heckler. I think he probably had a little bit of social restraint that was working through him. Because I could tell as his son was heckling, he wasn't quite as proud as when he was heckling. So I don't know if that was a spotlight issue or if he understood it was falling, the crap was falling in the nest. I don't know. But did you ever take your son to an outing and show him how to heckle?
No.
Why not?
I took him one time and tried to heckle, so to speak. Sort of bring in my normal behavior, but with my son there.
Show him how to scare people from a distance in a non-threatening way.
Just sort of bringing the same behavior that I always came to the game with.
All right.
And then now for the first time, having someone there I run that lens through. And while I didn't in that game realize how uncomfortable it was for me, I later look back, and I had a hard time thinking of anything to say that game. I remember, and when I was like, "Crap, that was a dud." Like,
wait a minute.
I had performance anxiety or something because now my son's here, and then as I was trying to do it better, I was like, "This is awful."
Was it performance anxiety, or did your morals just kick in?
Morals, something prevented me from getting the juice going. Yeah. Something prevented me from getting on my attention horse and riding it like I wanted.
There's some anger in that. That's what I'm telling you, man. When I feel a heckler, there's some self-hate in there, right? There is a guy that maybe just loves the game, maybe has a kid on the floor. I don't know, but there's a little to pipe up that anger, and you can say, hey, it's just me. I'm here as an 11th man or a 12th man, or I'm here to lift the team with my energy. There's some anger underlying that crap. Mm-hmm. Like, I listen to it, man. I'm telling you, it is some drunken father stuff there. There's just a little bit of a lack of control and a little bit of that, you feel the pressure building. And you know what would be a quick heckle? Like, once the heckles get rolling, I notice you break the seal.
Oh, yeah.
They come faster. No, like this guy, man, he gassed out at halftime. That was his real problem. He didn't have a pace plan. You know, he had not been working out for this moment.
Well, yeah, and then you'll find different reasons to fall out of the mood. You know, if your team gets way ahead, way behind. You know, there's different things. I blame substance abuse on the guy for everything, but I mean, who knows? I don't know what the score was or what he was really into, but you know, sometimes you're not needed anymore, so to speak. It's like, I guess I can go sit on the bench. Looks like they can handle this without me yelling all game. Yeah, they just needed me for the first half today. You know, I guess that's what you start thinking. It's a goofy deal. I know that there's some competitive fire. You know, when you talk about that pressure that builds up, and again, as I look through my own reflection, there's always this, if somebody's competing in the room, I want to be part of it.
Yeah.
Like, put me in the ring.
Yeah.
Put me in, coach. I want this. And so you're probably hearing that out of some people. Like, you talk about that I don't know, where the fatherhood, drunken father coming out. You know, it's that guy who wishes he could go back and take
just
state.
Escalates,
you
man.
know.
It feels like it escalates.
They're insecure with what they've accomplished, so they're trying to jump onto other accomplishments.
Yeah.
Without getting too psychological about it, just to kind of finish it off in a zen manner, I'm glad I live in a world where superfans exist. I hope they stay positive. But as for me, I've done my dance, and I don't really need to be that guy.
You got the anger out, huh?
Maybe.
Turns out you didn't hate yourself enough to be yelling at strangers from a safe distance.
Maybe bringing my son brought it out or put it away in me.
Yeah. It is. It's some distance courage, right? I mean, it is. You're screaming at somebody that is not going to come up and hit you or slap you or even get you kicked out of the arena, right? So you're literally just kind of throwing rocks at somebody who doesn't even have a rock to throw back at you.
Yeah. Yeah. It's an
interesting choice, but I found it mildly entertaining. I thought it was entertaining for me just to have the social structure around it, right? Just to watch the other people react, and it made me wonder, like, you know, did this guy come here with his intent? Does this happen every time? Is this one of these Tuesdays where you got too many Bush Lights in him, and now we're really going to the movies? I don't know.
That's what I think.
Will he be ashamed the next day? Will he be proud of himself the next day? There were so many parallels.
Will he remember?
Yeah, there were a lot of parallels to like my drunken moments where you could just see the escalation. And usually with the escalation, the emotions get so intense that often you don't know what happened the next day.
Yeah.
So I was just curious about it. And lo and behold, here you are, a heckler / well-composed superfan, I guess.
Something like that. Yeah, I'm a jack of all trades, master of none. And
That's
this
good.
is just another experience I jumped into just long enough to understand it a little bit, and got back out.
Touch the embarrassment, shy away a little bit. So did you always go to the game solo, or did your wife join you at some point in time?
No, I would probably say about 3 out of 4 games I went on my own. And then again, a lot of it from going on my own came from that guy in Kansas just giving me that free ticket.
Okay, but
I could go by myself for free, or I could try to drag someone along who didn't even exactly want to be there and cost me 2-3 times as much for a ticket.
So you would take your wife as
maybe twice a year.
But you weren't. Oh, okay. So did you go heckler mode when you were with her?
No, not very much.
Yeah, that's the deal. It's such a great chicken and egg. Mm-hmm. Was I a heckler and that led to my loneliness? Or have I always been lonely, so I said, to hell with it, I'll be a heckler. I might as well. That's what all the other lonely people are doing.
That's what I think. I think it's more the second one. My loneliness led me into a state
What are the other lonely people
where I
doing?
didn't mind misbehaving.
I'll do that. Awesome.
The behavior came after, I think.
Awesome.
But some of it's just personality. It's not even behavior. I'm telling you, there's a competitive spirit in me that even when I'm just supposed to be sitting there being encouraging, for some reason I feel like I've got to find a way to help compete.
We would like to thank you for listening to the Feral Minds podcast. Hopefully we triggered some curiosity that will have you seeking more. Remember, your mind is meant to run. Slap some sneakers on that bad boy and take it around the block. If you'd like to connect with us or enlist our feral thoughts on a problem in your life, visit us on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, or at theferalminds.com. Also remember, our thought line is always available. 24/7, we don't even allow it to sleep. And we want to hear from you. That number is 866-340-3394. Again, that number is 866-340-3394. We look forward to hearing from you.